Hello, dear one. Today, I just wanted to talk about emotional triggers because they seem to be coming pretty thick and fast for all of us at the moment. You know, since the coronavirus pandemic began, all of us have been struggling with a wide range of more specific emotions. So things like anxiety, fear, panic, overwhelming stress, grief, isolation, separation. I mean, that's just to name a few. And many of us, myself included, feel like these emotions have been coming on harder and stronger than ever before in our lives. They are really showing themselves to us. And so I personally have had to move through many rough moments in my life to continue to move forward. I like that though, because all of these rough moments, these dark moments, these mucky feeling bits inside of us are just like a little pointer to work out where we can have more connection to ourselves, where there is room for more understanding of your wholeness. And a deeper understanding of self is how you get to this deeper feeling of wholeness. But regardless of this, you know, like back to the point, give yourself some credit for where you're at. And as you give yourself some credit, do it without making any comparisons or judgments to anybody else. You are you. Nobody else is you. Nobody else has had your realm of experiences in your realms of existence. And you need to know that it is you and you alone that can make such a huge difference to your own world. And you are in the middle of a global pandemic that is really challenging on all your planes of existence. And so don't just give yourself some credit, give yourself some love. If you find that hard, I give you some love. I give you my love. Please accept my love. And so how can you live a life with more self-love, more joyfully, with more inclusivity, more self-responsibility, self-accountability? I believe it is by the uniting of all of your bodies. And by saying that, I mean your physical body, your emotional body, your mental body, your spiritual body. Within this one unique body, there's a few bodies going on. And the unity of those bodies allows you to feel your greatest sense of wholeness. And so one of the access points to feeling that sense of unity is through our emotional body. And through our emotional body, secondarily, it must be through our physical body, because we feel all of our emotions in our body. And I like to do this by shining a light on how our childhood wounding or developmental trauma plays itself out over and over and over and over and over and over and over again in the course of our day-to-day lives. And to really truly recognize how this wounding is driving our behaviors and our reactions, or aka our ego, as we seek to fulfill our needs through various strategies, or as we unknowingly project our issues onto other people around us, or we isolate ourselves, or sometimes we're repeating the same trauma over and over and over again. And at the same time, while we're doing this, we are like basically trying not to activate that deep, scary wound inside of us that we're trying to avoid. Yet, the funny thing about this is that in facing your darkness, the light is always revealed. And to face your darkness, we really do need to disidentify from our stories, you know, to be more of a witness, an observer, and at the same time honor these stories. This is your unique journey. And how can you look upon these stories as an observer with humility and appreciation and gratitude, or at the very least just acceptance of the things that occurred in your timeline. And I do want to be real here. You know, I'm 42 years old and I have done a lot of self-awareness work, and in fact I coach other people on this. I've got a huge realm of studies that I can lean on, you know, like in terms of physical understandings. I'm a naturopath and I've got so many other certifications, and I'm so invested in shining my light in all my areas of my life so that I can inspire other people. And I still get triggered a lot. I think that that's really normal. It's just how long I choose to stay in that trigger and what I do with it, that's the difference. Because, you know, like without a doubt, all of us have these dark sides to our light. You know, we've all got an impulsive, a wounded, a sad, a grief-stricken, or an isolated part that generally we are trying to hide, deny, disown, distort. You know, we're just trying to pretend it's not there. And so I have these parts. You have these parts. But repressing or suppressing these parts can result in things like really low self-esteem, because you're not fully accepting of yourself. How can you love yourself wholly and completely if you are denying these parts of yourself? I ask you. And there also can be obviously some mental issues mental illnesses, mental disorders that can go along with this, because there is this separation of self and this lack of connection to self. And also these imbalances obviously can play out in your physical body, you know, with chronic illnesses, dis-ease, a lack of harmony and flow in your body, you know, with this lack of acceptance of your full self. And then there's a spiritual connection, when we are not allowing ourselves to feel our divinity and to feel the constant connection to source energy and to Mother Earth energy. There is that sense of separation, and in that sense of separation, that lack of wholeness. You know, and in saying this, you know, I am a recovering self-critic. I'm a recovering addict. I'm a recovering workaholic and overcommitted person, high achiever, just to name a few things. And although I have done a huge amount of work on these parts, you know, in terms of like releasing these addiction patterns or changing my low self-esteem into a healthy self-esteem, and releasing my fear of rejection and my need to achieve, and I have amplified my overall health and wellness, triggers from deep parts of me still surface at different points, and sometimes like completely out of the blue. It can be completely shocking to me. I can be feeling calm and still and connected, and boom, all of a sudden, wow, a trigger has surfaced for me. And the place that I believe that we all need to be when these triggers surface, when these emotions surface, is a place of appreciation. Thank you, trigger, for showing me another layer of me that needs love, kindness, compassion, and connection. How the hell do you get there though? This is the mystery of life. So triggers are basically just emotionally charged moments, and you will feel them. They cause us to emotionally react. Triggers are these super reactive places inside of you that become activated by external things, so someone else's behavior or comments or actions. And in that moment, it can literally feel like different personalities emerge as your own mood changes, your own words, your reactions, your comments, your behaviors. Your reaction can be so intense, and to all different varying degrees of intensity, because you are defending against a painful feeling that has surfaced. These are wounds that need to heal, and in that moment, you don't want any air on those wounds, and you will do anything to stop the air from getting to those wounds. And because triggers are most often a childhood creation of a wound, you know, like that there is a belief that's set up at a certain point in childhood, it makes sense that we can then regress into childish behaviors and responses when triggers come up. You know, I'm sure that you've noticed that even with your, you know, you might be able to more easily think of someone else's behavior, but with your own behavior, you can really act in a way that you would not normally wish to as an adult. Your inner child is always within you. And so how do these triggers get created in childhood? The simple explanation is that as kids, we literally just want to be loved. We want to belong. We want to be really connected. And so if for whatever reason we don't feel that, we don't feel that with our true behaviors we have that, we basically modify ourselves and then at the same time our beliefs to be loved. And like this could be in appearance, in expression, in our emotions, with different activities, and so on. Many of these beliefs develop pretty rapidly, and without any awareness. Like, we literally just uptake these beliefs because we have decided that they are true in that reality at that time. And so the extent of these modifications that we make for our behaviors basically depends upon each person and their own situation. But really what it means is that basically we all learnt to be false before we had the chance to feel and be properly alive, like to be fully accepted, to be totally safe, to be authentically expressed, to be the truth of who we really are. Most of us have never practiced that, and the practice of that can be really challenging. And so for most of us, this experience of developmental trauma is by like abandonment or neglect, rejection, abuse of some kind. And again, there's all different layers to this, and there's all different understandings of this. But in these cases, our core wounds are obviously going to be intense, and we form so many different layers of protection to keep them from being activated again because it hurts. So they may be completely suppressed, like so completely denied and rejected and suppressed and pushed out of your consciousness. And then what happens is that they can surface in adulthood, and they can surface in times of great stress, which obviously this pandemic is bringing up. And great stress could also be in times of being really drunk, for instance. But what's not so fun about this is that trauma makes us feel really alone, really isolated, and it is in this disconnection that we forget our divinity, that we forget our wholeness, that we forget our life. And so on a scientific level, like, there are two areas of the brain that manage our memory and our emotions, and that are commonly affected by traumatic events. And this, I guess, helps explain why our memories become fragmented and why emotions can actually feel really overwhelming way after the initial trauma has actually first happened. And so the brain will pick and choose different memories and feelings that it thinks, that the mind has decided that are most helpful for our survival. And our survival is not based upon thriving. It is literally based on a physiological, you are surviving. And so your mind, which is just like a tool, it's like your hand, it's like your neck, your mind is just another tool of your body. Your mind is not all of you. Your mind wants you to retain that information for survival, no matter how distorted it is from the actual truth and the truth of you. And so because your body is designed to protect you also against trauma, what the mind decides, once the brain has sent messages to the body will respond. And so you get stress signals that move all the way through the body. And the body can hold itself in constant protection mode long after the trauma is also, like, the initial trauma is over. And so this is how emotions can get stuck in our body. And this is where this sense of dis-ease or disharmony can really affect us on a physiological level. However, you do have the power. As our minds conjure thoughts, we have two choices. We can believe the thought, or we can observe the thought and then choose to disregard it and create another thought. We can choose, basically, to not be on autopilot, to create our own reality by choosing the thoughts that we do believe and that we are creating. Disregarding thoughts, though, however, is harder than it sounds. Creating your own reality does take great awareness and acute attention and intention. I also believe I do talk about intention a lot. Many people just don't realize that the thoughts that pop into our heads just aren't true, and we've got like up to 70,000 thoughts a day that are moving through here, and each of these thoughts are moving through a specific filter, perception, belief program that our mind has installed from when we were young. And so all of these thoughts pop through these specific filter programs, and then another thought is determined from there. And so then it's up to us whether we accept that thought or we disregard it and choose another one. If we're on autopilot, we just have thoughts come in, they go through our filtration process, our mind goes, oh, I know what to do with this, and I know what to do with the body. And so at that point, you're unable to decipher authentic beliefs from false ones because you're on autopilot. So false beliefs are created from childhood onwards, and they can be then further implanted over many, many years of being on autopilot. And so that's why people can kind of cement them without questioning their validity. And then that's also why questioning their validity as an adult can feel really quite confronting, because these beliefs have been part of our survival strategy. Without them at a particular time in our life, our mind decided that we would not have been able to keep going. And so when we create awareness of them, it sets off danger signals in our body. It's like, oh, if you change your patterns of behavior, you might die. That's sort of the fear that can come up. And so it can be really challenging. And what are some of the things that can get installed? Well, I mean, God, I will start off with a couple. So like, if I am pretty, I will be more likable. I'll be able to please more people. If I am less sensitive and display less emotion, I'm a better person. If I have a lot of money, I am successful. Other people look up to me. If I work hard or achieve more, I have more value. One more glass of wine and I'll start feeling better. Mine that came up for me just today is that if I don't achieve, and achieving to my own weird bar that I have set for myself, or if I'm not like being very responsible by being very busy and creating this output, you know, if I'm not achieving by doing, then I'm not worthy, then I'm not lovable. And so there's a desire for praise or recognition or approval that inflates this kind of false belief system that's always hungry for validation. And you can see how this can kind of play out. And Louise Hay had a great quote, you know, many years ago. We learn our belief systems as very little children, and then we move through life creating experiences that literally match these beliefs. And so if we look back in your own life and notice, how often have you gone through the same experience? And the same experience, the same trigger, the same underlying emotion. And in our society, there's obviously a huge focus on altruism and selflessness, you know, like they're really celebrated. We are taught, you know, from a young age to put others' needs before our own, and that it is really good to be there or to modify ourselves for other people's happiness in a way that suits them. And so self-sacrifice, there's a deep belief in many of us that it's a virtue. These are false self-beliefs. Our real feelings and desires matter. They truly do. They are part of us. You know, like all the shouldas, couldas, wouldas, have tos, these learned ideas, they are not part of our true self. When we think about how many activities we carry out daily, these sense of obligation, it might be really useful to trace these senses of obligation back to their true origin. How did you install this belief? Where did it come from? And all of the beliefs that we place onto our lives are provided for us from pre-birth onwards. You know, we've got all of our different environments and lifestyle, and we've got cultures and religions and society and friends and work and education. Like there's so many different links into this. However, in saying that, the only obligation that we truly have is actually to ourselves. And so what do we have to do, or who do we have to be to overcome limiting beliefs and these triggers? Well, number one, notice how often have you had the same trigger. That's a great way to start. Without noticing, how will you be able to release it? And how will you be able to release the obstacles that or the barriers that you've been putting up to your whole heart, to your own self-connection, rather than just feeding the process and being driven by that process of not being connected. And this dis-ease in our body and in our energy, we really need to pay attention to what's happening in our body, this lack of harmony. And it is by noticing our body that we can heal, clear, and release energy from all of our different bodies, is emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical. And we have to be self-aware for this process to work. So we have to really notice and pay attention to our body and to be able to feel emotions in our body. And that in itself is a practice. And so the practice of noticing your body can also trigger feelings of stress because you're not used to it, or there are these old patterns of beliefs in your mind that are like, stay away from that feeling. It's not good. It's not safe to be there. It's a survival threat. And that's where we need to retrain our brain to let it know that it is safe in the exploration of yourself. If you are looking for your true self, you are on a journey to discover your own truth, and a truth that may create discomfort before you gain that newfound sense of freedom, because this all involves uncovering your illusionary thoughts and acknowledging all of your sides, your insecurities, your fears, as well as your strength. Transformation, which so many of us are looking for, does not come from a place of denial. It comes from a place of acceptance and expansiveness. And also by paying attention to the emotions that we're feeling in our physical body, not denying our physical body and the expression of these emotions. No emotions are bad. No self-regulated body sensations that are emotions are bad. And our negative emotions are just portals into the shadow of our light. There's no such thing as negative anyway. Like, they're denser, they're lower vibrational energies, whatever. They're just signals. And that these signals just help us determine our wounds and our fears so that we can transmute them, so that we can alchemize them. Shadow work to me is about fearlessly going towards your fear, going into that space of contraction over expansion, like finding out what it is. And as a result of alchemizing these, you'll actually connect back to your inner voice, your inner heart, which knows and has always known what is best for you and the people around you as a result of that, like that reality that you are creating for yourself, because you are returning to the truth of who and what you are. Like in all of it, there is actually no difference in shadow work or light work. When we go to meet our shadow, we return to the light, and that is light work. And as you continue this work, the light will be less and less affected by the dark, and the dark will be more and more affected by the light. That's how this works. And also remember that our psyche, just like our body, like everything else in nature, has its own wisdom. And, just like how spring turns into summer and days turn into nights, we can only let go of our old defenses, our old strategies, our old beliefs, our old paradigms when the time is right, and not a minute before and not a minute after. And it's the work that you do around creating awareness that creates the right time. So rather than forcing a particular strategy, which is generally based on fear, or pressured by this urgency to be rid of something that you think is bad, place your focus on cultivating compassion and an understanding of the signals that come up, particularly the body signals. And it's mindfulness that is a hugely important key in stepping into that freedom. Mindfulness has been said to be like your passport to liberty, which I love. From the moment that we take steps to generate mindfulness, we are nurturing the seeds of freedom inside of us. And we're also helping ourselves to reaffirm who we truly are. And we can, in those moments of mindfulness, cease being the victim of attachment or craving, like the ego mind. And we need to pay close attention to our beautiful body. All feelings and emotions are to be honored and valued for the messages from our soul and our spirit. To honor them, to honor these messages in your body, is to honor your truth. And that will put you on the path to authenticity which leads you directly to your purpose. It's in your most authentic self, in your most authentic expression of self, that you are shining your greatest light, that you are living your soul purpose. And so when you get triggered, what is the emotion that you are experiencing? Can you actually just begin by naming it? And sometimes if you're struggling with the naming of emotions, there's a couple of really good sites that you can look at to help you actually have a better vocabulary around naming emotions. And extending your vocabulary into naming emotions is incredibly helpful. And then after you've named your emotion, can you track it in your body? Track it until it changes, until it shifts. And when I say track it, I mean, this could be part of what happens in that initial experience of getting to know that emotion. Could be visual, sound, smells. But really what I want you to notice on is the feeling of it in your body. Don't bypass this feeling in your body by allowing your mind to construct stories. Just simply follow the feeling in your body, like continue to track it. Run towards that emotional feeling in your body, that sensation, rather than away from it. And just keep staying with your body, in your body. Observe only what's happening on a physical level, so not in a mental level. Just let all those stories go. Your mind will try really hard to keep you away from following the sensations if it feels like it's a safety trigger for you. So that's why this can be really challenging. So you can keep moving into your emotion with your breath. Like I love to use my breath to keep tracking in my body. And that allows the emotion to continue to shift and to change as you go. But basically you have to feel it to heal it. And in fully experiencing the emotion, we can allow it to process and to integrate into our experience. And then it's not so scary anymore. We've shone a light on it. We've allowed it to be. We've held it. We've nurtured it. We've welcomed it. We've honored it. And you know, like if you think about it, the opposite of repression, which is what most of us are used to, is expression. And that's what we're all craving, full, authentic expression of ourselves. And in order to process our emotional distress and to move it through and out of our body so it doesn't get stuck there, we need to learn to express our emotions in a healthy way. And that means that we need to be able to express our emotions in a healthy way through our body. We need to accept them in our body to then be able to accept them in our mind. Does that make sense for everyone? The embodiment process is a really important part of letting you alchemize and transmute this. The goal is to move the energy of emotion through and out of the body so that we can let it go. Trapped emotions get in our way every day. And that's because the body is actually in the present moment, not in the past or the future. It's our mind that does that. And it's our mind then that can sometimes change our body responses because it's in the past or in the future. But literally, if the mind is not dictating what the body is doing, the body is in the present moment. And so by focusing just on your body and letting go the control of your mind, you are not focusing on your stories and your stories of fear or grief or shame or pain or blame or boredom or isolation. These are the things that can exacerbate your mind stories. So if you can allow your mind to drop its control and to allow your body to process it, this will be a really powerful experience for you. And it's that recognizing and accepting our feelings as they come and go, as they shift and change, as you place your awareness on it, on these sensations, you recognize it, you're aware of it, and then you're shifting it. And you might have heard about Tara Brach. She's got some great teachings on radical self-acceptance and the practice of RAIN, which RAIN, the letters stand for recognize, allow, investigate, and nourish, with self-compassion. And so you could ask yourself a few questions. What am I feeling? Sense in your body where that feeling lives and how it feels at this point. Allow yourself to really drop into that. And you might say to yourself, okay, here it is. Like here it is in my heart, or here it is in my belly. I actually know this feeling well. And there's nothing that I need to figure out at this point. There's actually nothing that I need to solve by feeling this. I am just feeling it. And I don't need to know why it's there right now. I don't need to drop into the story of the why. I can just feel it. And just be aware. Okay, this may be uncomfortable. Maybe it sucks completely. But I'm willing. I'm willing to feel it. And so then allowing your body to feel it, you'll feel it shift and change and keep tracking it. And maybe you could even ask your body, or you could ask your heart, or wherever the feeling is coming up for you, in your shoulders, in your neck, in your jaw, in your eyes, in your head, maybe it's coming up in your knees. Ask your body, what does my fear or whatever emotion is presenting, like where is it living, and how does it feel within me, and what does it mean? What would you like to tell me? You don't need to even find the words. Just asking your body is like giving your body permission to tell you something. And that could be on an energetic level. It's not something that you need to be fully conscious of. And I also invite you to sense your whole body as you're tracking this process, all the way from your head, through all of your limbs, all the way down to your feet. And then just notice, like, is there pressure, on any of these body parts? Is there pressure in your head, or is there tingling in your fingers? Where is it exactly? Like, really track it. Where is it exactly in your body? Does it feel heavy or hot or contracted or expansive, or does it feel warm, or does it feel really cold? And if your mind doesn't want to let you go there, like if every time you try and really track it in your body, your mind goes, oh, get away. Maybe just invite that emotion to take up all the space that you're in. So, like here I am sitting in my body right now, but I'm also sitting in a room. Invite the emotion to come all the way out into the room, and then just see whether at that point it can start to dissipate so that you can track it once again in your body. And notice the texture and the shape of the sensations in your body. Just notice, be as curious about as many different things as possible as you let your body explore it and process it and integrate the full feeling of it. And what other emotions are connected to some of the sensations as they shift and change in your body. And can you keep breathing into your body through all of these sensations and take on board all of their wisdom? Because any of this pain or uncomfortability or these odd sensations that you're not used to feeling is actually leading you to wholeness. Witness this experience. Sit in the discomfort and just ask, show me, what do I need to know? Really find your own truth. Why am I feeling this? What do my body parts want to tell me? What do they want? What does this emotion that's connected to this particular body part, what does it need from you? What feels right in this moment? And at this point, once the body has, spoken its truth, perhaps you'll notice that there's a sense of completion that has come with this, or a sense of ease or more spaciousness. And maybe also at this point, you might realize that you need to cry or laugh or dance or sing or journal or do some exercise or tapping, or just to keep breathing and meditating in a space. Whatever feels cathartic in this moment, please do that. And maybe also you need to wait for more answers, and you need to practice doing this again and give your body permission to keep going in deeper and deeper and deeper, particularly if you're not used to doing this sort of process. Don't be frustrated if the answers don't come straight away. The answers may need time to percolate and then feel safe to come out, and that's so fine. Never force yourself into answers, because at that point you're jumping to conclusions, and that might not be the wholeness of you. So it'll happen in its own timeline. Just be patient and know that the answers will come. The answers are inside of you. They just need that opportunity to be fully expressed. And so you also might like to ask, after this experience, what were you making this trigger mean about you, the situation, or the world at whole? And what unmet needs are consistently repeating in this pattern, and what needs are not being met by, what needs of you are not being met by you? And how can you create more awareness and exploration around this? And what could you give yourself in this moment, or in this next moment, or tomorrow, or in this next week? What are you not honoring in yourself? And so if fear has come up, I also just want to talk into this. So the truth is, there is no fear. Fear only exists as a functioning of an awakening of our consciousness. And so the more that we move towards the fear, the more that we're saying, yes, I accept this invitation. You know, once we can do that, we basically neutralize that which may have been previously terrifying us. And then we begin to be truly masterful in our own lives. This is self-mastery. And so when you allow yourself to neutralize the fear, when you allow yourself to process through your body instead of suppressing or rejecting, denying, disowning, distorting emotions, and you ask yourself these questions because you don't want to keep responding from your past. You know, you really want to create your own reality. So you need to be your own witness. You need slowness, you need patience, you need stillness, watchfulness, awareness, kindness, compassion. They're the real key elements, because you always have a choice with how you interpret and respond to emotional turbulence. Recognizing this is taking responsibilities for your feelings and your actions. But I'm not going to lie, this soul kind of work is hard. It really is. To be honest with ourselves and look at who we are and where we are, where we have been, where we have come from, who we want to be, it can be really quite confronting, to say the least. And to acknowledge certain behaviors that maybe we don't like, that we do, maybe we don't like how we react or overreact to certain situations or people, that in itself can be really difficult to address. But when we do, the end result is undeniable. It is freedom. It is being able to live an authentic life, free of self-doubt and fear, and living the life that you were born to with purpose, love, joy, peace, self-mastery. Personally, I find the alternative, which is basically staying put, staying in fear, staying in repeated patterns, like stagnating, I find that concept too painful. I would always rather run towards my fear. You know, the staying stagnant is full of like a lot of unwanted and unnecessary and really dense, lower vibrational energy that can really weigh us down. It really darkens and dims our light, and each day just can feel like and be much more of a struggle. And you would be tired, because I've done this before. You're using all of your energy just on surviving. You don't have any left for thriving. And so I just want to remind you that we are the creators of our life experience. It is never the outside person or situation which is responsible for our state of being or the results that we're getting. The only thing that we can control in life is our response to it. And I learned that lesson many years ago at a time of great heartache and turmoil, at a point where I felt like somebody else's decisions put my life completely out of control. And so I would like to finish up with this statement. We are all actually fully expressed aspects of everything. So anything that is possible exists within us. And that is what being whole means. And that everything in you is perfect and is to be appreciated and acknowledged and honored and revered for whatever side you feel like it's sitting on, the light or the dark. And I believe that because we are one with everything, once we have access to a greater consciousness within us, we have a responsibility to continue doing this shadow work or light work or whatever you want to call it on behalf of all, especially those who do not know, and who may never choose to know, or who never have the opportunity to know, or who maybe just are on their way to knowing. We are charged with that responsibility because we have the freedom and the privilege to pursue our soul awakening, and we are aware. And as you reclaim your light, be prepared that it will continue to be brighter than the last time you remember seeing it and being it. You are the light. Continue to be the light.